Page Chofei, you think you said?
We're on, the Maamar starts on page Chav Gimel, yeah. But I'm not going to repeat it inside. I want to go over the concepts outside. And yeah, for sure. There's a expression by Chassidim based upon a pasuk that we say in davening, a pasuk in Tehillim. Guard my soul because I'm a chassid. Why guard my soul? Because I'm a chassid. So Chassidim say because since Chassidus has such powerful ideas, it's easy to take them to the extreme. Especially because everything in Chassidus is a lot of paradoxes. One place Chassidus says the most important thing to do is dir v'tachtenim, the lowest possible place should be a home for Hashem. On the other hand, Chassidus emphasizes how that itself has to be done with the greatest care to make sure that you don't get brought down by the place you're going to, and not every place is for every person. So, therefore, the pasuk is very relevant. Guard my soul because I'm a chassid, because it's easy to make a mistake in learning chassidus and to take it the wrong way. I don't know exactly how to understand the relationship between the way the inner dimension of Torah explains the stories of Torah. There are 4 levels of Torah interpretation, right? And the 4 levels of Torah interpretation correspond to the 4 worlds. So Pshat has to do with this world, and Sod has to do with the world of Atzilus. So people always ask, so what was, we're talking about Kerach this week, what was Kerach thinking? Was he thinking the way things are? Oh, wow. This is exciting.
You made the Rabbi's day.
You did. Good morning. So we learn in a simple meaning of the Torah, right? And then we learn the Kabbalistic or the Midrashic meaning of the Torah. Which one actually happened? Which one was Pari thinking what Rashi was saying he was thinking, or was Pari thinking what the Medrash was saying he was thinking, or what the Zohar says he was thinking? So I think perhaps you could say is that since these 4 levels of Torah interpretation correspond to different worlds, and each world comes from the other world, maybe you could say that they're all describing what's happening in another world, and all these worlds are connected to each other. That's what I'm thinking, that we're learning the deeper inner meaning of the story of Korach. That is the story of Korach as it is in a deeper, higher world, and that is not necessarily what Korach was thinking in this world. Could be that's how to understand it, and could be I am saying total heresy, but I don't know. But let's learn what Korach was thinking in a deeper, higher way, and then let's see how this has to do with us, and analyze more deeply what we learned yesterday in the Maamar.
Before you get into this, is this just like a Hasidic take of what was happening in Shemayim?
Zev, you just missed it. You're going to have to listen to the first 2 minutes of the class. I just addressed it this second, and the answer was, I don't know, but more than that. You have to go hear the first 2 minutes again.
Okay.
So,
I missed it too, Zev.
Okay, I'll say it in one sentence, all right? What I think is that there's 4 worlds, and when the Chassidus says what happens, but not necessarily he's talking about what Korach was thinking in this world. Could be Chassidus is describing what was happening simultaneously in the higher world, and because it says the 4 levels of Torah interpretation correspond to the 4 worlds. So it could be that there's a way we describe Korach in this world he was thinking. Then there's a way we describe Korach from a higher, deeper perspective in the higher world. However, regarding Korach itself, there's more reason to think that Korach actually in this world was in touch with the deeper meaning. And the reason why there's more reason to think that is because the Gemara describes Korach as a pekeach, as a very intelligent person.
Would it affect him here in a positive way? How is it that he has all these wonderful things happening up in Shemayim and manifests down here like that?
And this was the first thing that you missed this morning, Zev.
Oh, okay. You can continue.
Which was, we say in davening, guard my soul because I'm a chassid, that precisely because Chassidus has these very powerful ideas, it's possible to take them the wrong way. So let's learn what Korach was thinking and what we should learn from that in our own lives, and Ritzah Hashem we'll see now what this Maamar that we learned yesterday. Just reading through it, we'll get a deeper insight, hopefully, of what we learned. So we learned yesterday that Korach didn't want Moshe Rabbeinu to be above the Jewish people as a king. He didn't want Aaron HaKohen to be the Kohen Gadol, and he wanted to prove to Moshe Rabbeinu, to Aaron HaKohen, and to all the Jewish people that this is not the right way to go. And his proof was he came together with 250 people, all wearing talesim. The talesim were all dyed with the color of tchelis, and he asked Moshe Rabbeinu, does a talis which is dyed with tchelis, does it also need to have the strings of tchelis? That was his question. And he was thinking, Moshe will for sure say, if the whole thing's dyed with tchelis, doesn't need to have strings of tchelis. And so too he's going to say, okay, so then based on that, all the Jewish people are holy. Therefore we don't need to have you, Moshe Rabbeinu, to be towering above us. We don't need Aaron towering above us. That's what he thought Moshe was going to say. But Moshe surprised him and said, no, it does need to have the strings of tchelis. Although it you know what I'm talking about? It doesn't. Our strings are white, but it doesn't need to have the strings of tchelis. It is important that it has those strings anyways. That's the story the Torah says. The deeper meaning of the story is like this. When Hashem made the world, it says on day 2 of creation, God made a separation between the higher waters and the lower waters. The higher waters the Torah is referring to is actually referring to the spiritual divine energy that is above the physical energy of this world. There's the physical pleasures of this world. Water represents pleasure. And then there's a higher, deeper pleasure, the higher waters, that's beyond this world. So Hashem made a separation, and He hid the higher waters. In this world, it's not so obvious and clear the pleasure that we have in Torah mitzvahs. And instead, we have over here the lower waters. We have over here our physical pleasure. This is what Chassidus always calls the tzimtzum, the contraction of godly energy. Hashem hid His light. Hashem hid His light. That's what Chassidus says. So Korach says, okay, Hashem hid His light, fine. And we're in the dark, okay. But Korach knew, based on Chassidus, Korach knew that the divine source of the physical is higher than the divine source of the spiritual. He says we don't need to have any revelation of Hashem, because the concealment of Hashem is greater than the revelation of Hashem. Darkness, according to Korach, is better than light. Or, in the language of Kabbalah, Gevura, which is Hashem's power to restrain and hide His light, is greater than Chesed, Hashem's power of revelation. Or it's...
So you need one another?
Huh?
So if you didn't have darkness, you wouldn't have light.
Oh. Very good. Very good. So, the truth is that...
That's what my T-Bag says.
What does your T-Bag say?
Without darkness, you never know the light.
Without darkness, you never know the light. Okay, that's already a Greek idea. That the darkness helps you see the light, but it helps you notice the greatness of the light. But Chassidus says more that the darkness causes the light to exist. That in order for there to be light, there has to be first darkness. In other words, there are some things, some revelations of godliness which are so great. In order for us to derive anything from them, they have to first be filtered and contracted for us to get something from them. So there first has to be a contraction. Hashem has to hide His light, and then we could get something from it. There are 4 opinions about what this contraction actually did. There is the opinion of the Vilna Gaon, who says that when Hashem hid His light, then Chas v'Shalom, He, so to speak, left the world. He understood the tzimtzum to be in a simple sense, that Hashem, so to speak, left the world. He takes care of the world, but his essence is no longer here. The Alter Rebbe absolutely disagrees with him, and it's interesting. The Vilna Gaon's own students, Chaim Volozhiner, they sided with the Alter Rebbe. Chaim Volozhiner doesn't mention that he's siding with the Alter Rebbe, but he says that the tzimtzum is not to be understood in the simple sense, and it's also Alter Rebbe. There's another caveat not really relevant today. Besides the discussion whether it's to be understood simply that Hashem left, or Chas Hashem, or that Hashem hid himself, besides those two quadrants, if you will, of understanding Tzimtzum, is it real or is it just hiding? Besides, there's another question: where was the Tzimtzum? Is it Tzimtzum in God's essence, or is it Tzimtzum in Hashem's light? So Alter Rebbe says that Tzimtzum was only in the light of Hashem, not in his essence, and even the light, it was just hidden, but not Chas V'Shalom removed. Okay, so through the Tzimtzum does express itself God's greatness. Besides the fact, as you said correctly, that in order for us to receive the light of Hashem, there has to be a concealment of godliness. Besides that, the Tzimtzum itself expresses God's greatness. How does the Tzimtzum itself express God's greatness? We have similar things in the world as well. It says that there's two ways to see the greatness of Hashem in creation. With these two verses, we describe Hashem's greatness. One is Ma Godlu Masach Havaya, and one is Ma Rob Masach Havaya. Ma Godlu means how great are Hashem's creations, how amazing they are. So we look at the greatness of Hashem in larger, more amazing creation, like let's say, for example, like the sun. That's my God. We see Hashem's greatness, or even greater creations. Let's say like angels. That's a way of seeing Hashem's greatness. Then there's another way of seeing Hashem's greatness is my Rabbi. The fact there's a multitude of creations. There's so many different kinds of things that God made that also expresses God's greatness, but expresses it in a different way. There's on the dollar bill it says E pluribus unum, out of many one, right? Out of many one. So this is actually the opposite. In order for there to be many, there has to be one.
It says in God we trust.
Right? The dollar has a lot of good things to say, and it deflects the things that people try to. The two mistakes people make about money. The one is that it's my own power. It says in God we trust. Another is that it causes division and fights. It says no, we pluribus unum. We get together. But what I wanted to say was exactly the opposite. Instead of out of many one, in order for there to be a being that creates so many different kinds of things, this being cannot have any definition. In other words, if I am a it's a lousy example, but whatever. I was by the singles event a few nights ago, and I was really surprised that there's like a few hundred people there, and some guys walk into the event, and I say, "You able to meet anybody here?" The first second, as soon as they walk in, they're like, "There's nobody here for me." I'm like, whoa! How did the guy know every single person as soon as they walked in? It's a mistake. So on the other hand, there are other people which are like, they're a little more open-minded. They don't think that they have to be matched with someone specific that fits exactly into a certain box. They're a little more open-minded. The point is, the less limited you are, the more you're able to get along with more kinds of people. Similarly, Havdil, a lousy example, but what I wanted to say is that the Eibishter, because Hashem is infinite, how do you see Hashem's oneness? Hashem has no limitation at all. It's because He creates so many different kinds of creations. If Hashem only created angels or souls or one kind of thing, so then that would show that Hashem has a certain kind of parameter, a certain kind of limitation. Where do you see God's oneness? How do you see how Hashem is one? And He has no specific thing He's associated with. He's absolutely simple, not any parameters, not any definition. Is by the manifold, by the amazing amount of things that God created. That indicates precisely the multitude of creations. Emphasizes how must be one being who created them all, because you can't have. The fragmentation and multiplicity of all the creations highlights that the Eibishter has no definition whatsoever. So the Tzimtzum itself also highlights Hashem's greatness. Like it says in Gemara that when Rabbi Meir passed away, no one could give parables anymore, as I just demonstrated by my lousy parable. In order to be able to give a parable, you have to be able to understand the essence of the idea. Without understanding the essence of the idea, you can't give a parable. When Rabbi Meir passed away, the Gemara says no one can give parables anymore. What does it say about Shlomo HaMelech? What was great about Shlomo HaMelech? Shlomo HaMelech was so great, the Torah says, he said 3,000 parables. able to explain things lower and lower and bring it down. In order to bring something down to be so vivid and so obvious, so clear, it's because of a deeper and deeper understanding. So too, in order for Hashem to limit himself, that requires even greater power than revelation. To be able to bring something, to limit something which is infinite, and to make that the power of the teacher to bring the idea down highlights the teacher's greatness in a different way, and in a way even greater than the teacher's ability to understand ideas himself. There's a way a teacher understands ideas himself. There's an ability to limit them, and it shows a more abstract understanding of the ideas. Yeah?
Why are we all supposed to humble ourselves?
Humble ourselves because?
Where you just said?
Because in front of Hashem's greatness, you mean? Yeah, for sure. In fact, it says in Shulchan Aruch that before we daven, we're supposed to think of the greatness of Hashem and the lowliness of man, and it's connected by appreciating the greatness of Hashem that you're supposed to feel insignificant in front of Hashem. So here was a Korach's mistake was. It's true that the contraction and Hashem hiding himself expresses God's greatness. It's true that the darkness is a way that the source of the physical reality comes from a higher source than the spiritual one. In order for there to be a physical reality which is so low, it requires an infinite light of Hashem that can reach even and create a physical world. To get a spiritual world, you don't need to have such a great, powerful light. It's like the Mitzvah gives an example of light and darkness. When there's a more stronger light, you can see from farther away. Yeah. So Korach, he made the following mistake. Korach said, since the Tzimtzum expresses God's greatness more than the light of Hashem, so we don't need to have anything other than the Gvura of Hashem, the darkness of Hashem, the concealment of Hashem. The concealment of Hashem, that's the best thing, because the concealment itself has a higher source than revelation. So Korach is for darkness. He's pro-darkness. He's pro-concealment. And the truth is that when Mashiach will come, Korach will be right. When Mashiach will come, we will see how the whole Tzimtzum, Hashem hiding himself, how that expresses God's greatness. But that's when you're looking at a 2,000 feet in the air, looking down at Tzimtzum. When you're in the middle of a Tzimtzum, in the middle of darkness, you don't feel the virtue of darkness. We're coming to the Rebbe's day, the Gimel Tammuz, the day which is a huge challenge for each of us, the fact that we can't see our Rebbe. It's true that after Mashiach will come, and even before Mashiach comes, looking just back in the last 28 years, you could see how this day has brought out the best in many people and the connection they have to the tzaddik in a way that was unfathomable before, that never existed. A connection of essence to essence. It's true. That's looking at it in hindsight and whatever, but we're looking at it in the moment. It's not an easy thing. It's a huge challenge. So Korach says, let's talk about the greatness of the Tzimtzum. Why do Aaron HaKohen, it says that he lit the candles in the Menorah. What's the meaning of lighting the candles in the Menorah? Lighting the candles in the Menorah means inspiring Jewish souls to yearn to be close to Hashem. So that's a function of Aaron HaKohen, to inspire us to yearn, to want to be close to Hashem. Korach is like, why need yearning? This world is the main thing. The physical world is a higher source than the spiritual world. This is where it all happens. Why need to yearn for something higher? Tzimtzum is the best thing. The physical world is the best thing. Why are you trying to get anywhere else? This is where it all is. So, is he right? Is he wrong? So let's take this to our own lives for a second, and then we'll understand it a lot better. There are two psukim that describe what we're supposed to do every day, all day. One verse is one sentence that describes what we're supposed to do all day, every day, is the pasuk, Kol ma'asecha yil l'shem shemayim. Whatever you do should be for the sake of Hashem. It's a pasuk. It's a mission in Pirkei Avos. Whatever you do should be for the sake of Hashem. That's one pasuk. Another pasuk says, in all your ways you should know Hashem. These two psukim are saying two different things. The first one is saying, don't be present in what you're doing. You're going out to business, you're speaking to a client, you're eating, you're drinking, you're sleeping. don't want what you're doing right now. Want what this will contribute to Hashem's goal in creation. Hashem is giving you physical food. It's enjoyable food. Great. Don't think about that. Think about how with this food you'll be able to daven better. Think about how with this money you will be able to give more tzedakah. Don't think about the physical thing itself. Think about where this could possibly bring you. That's what we're supposed to think all day. Not about what we're in, but where it's going. Okay? But there's another higher level. The higher level is that, as it says in today's Hayom Yom, today's Hayom Yom says that a person is supposed to habituate. Is that a word in English, Dr. Bressman? Survey says. Okay, supposed to habituate himself to see divine providence all day. How Hashem is constantly renewing the world and every creature, every moment with divine providence, and divine providence is the existence of all creations. It's what animates them, and it's what sustains them. The only reason that anything we see is around and alive, and what keeps it there is Hashem's hand, divine providence. We're supposed to look at and see how the dots connect. We're supposed to look around our lives and see this is why this happened, this is why that happened. We're supposed to look for that. We're supposed to get ourselves used to seeing divine providence. Okay, in order to see divine providence, there's a trick. The trick is, ordinarily, it's possible to live in the world, in the physical world, and the world to bring us down. How are we able to have the equilibrium, to see beneath the surface and see Hashem's hand and everything? It's by not being present. In other words, if I'm going to eat my hamburger, I always think Yonatan gets insulted when I give an example of hamburger, but I hope not. Anyways, if I'm going to eat my hamburger for the sake of the Eibishter, because I wanted to have more strength to serve Hashem, so then I'll be able to see Hashem's hand in and feel Hashem's presence in the physical food that I'm eating and in the circumstances in my life that are happening right now while I'm involved in the physical. However, if I want the hamburger for the sake of the hamburger, if I just want to enjoy it, then I'm in the dark. Then I can't see divine providence. In order for me to see divine providence, to be present completely with Hashem and what's in my life, I have to not want it. If I want it, if I want the physical things in my life, I want to enjoy them just for the sake of enjoying them, and not for the sake of Hashem, so then what's going to happen is I won't be able to see Hashem's hand on what's going on in my life. You follow?
Can you say that about anything?
Huh?
Can't you say that about anything?
Oh, so going back to Korach, this is what Korach was missing. Korach was saying, Tzimtzum is fantastic. The physical world is fantastic. Yes, the physical world is fantastic when you don't want it. But when the light of Hashem has not yet been revealed, when the birurim aren't finished yet, when there's light, when the sparks of godliness are mixed in with the klippa, with the husks, which cover the divine light, so then tzimtzum, the darkness, what does that do? It can nourish the opposite of holiness. The fact that a person is in the dark and they don't feel Hashem's presence in their life, that naturally could Chas Hashem cause them to make lots of mistakes, not feel Hashem's presence in their life, and they speak what they shouldn't speak, and they think what they shouldn't think, because they don't feel Hashem's presence. Korach was saying, the physical world is a higher divine source. Yes, it does have a higher divine source. Korach, you're right. But right now, if you're going to, in order for that to happen, in order to reveal in this world how this world is a higher divine source, it's precisely by feeling the greatness of the light of Hashem. Let me say this by the soul and the body, for example. I don't know if Chassidus brings this example or not, but I think it's a good example. The soul and the body, what has a higher source? The body or the soul? So Chassidus says this is true. Chassidus says the body has a higher source than the soul. That's true. Why? Because the soul has a natural bond with Hashem. The bond of the soul with Hashem is like a father and a son. The soul is a holy being, it's a pure being. So the Eibishter loves the neshama, and Hashem loves Hashem. It's fantastic. You don't see something beyond nature in the relationship of Hashem and a soul. But in the relationship of Hashem and a Jewish body, there you see something more than just nature. There Hashem there you could see how, as we say in our davening, uvonu v'achartem kol ha'melashim, how you have chosen us from all nations. Why is the body holy? Why is the body special? Because Hashem chooses the body. Because Hashem chooses the body, that's what makes the body holy and special. It's not because of the body intrinsically has any value. It's because the choice of Hashem. Because Hashem chooses the body. So what's great about the body is not the body itself, it's Hashem's choice in the body. So in order to reveal the greatness of the Jewish body, how Hashem chose it is by the soul being married to the body. By the body not being into the body. By the body not indulging in physical pleasures. And listening to the neshama and learning Torah and doing mitzvahs, that expresses the greatness of the body. In order for the body to be great, to express its greatness, it has to listen to the neshama. I'm saying two opposite things. On the one hand, I'm saying that the body is only great because you don't see any virtue in it. And therefore, you see more Hashem's choice in the body. It's a choice. It's not a natural connection. On the other hand, to reveal Hashem's choice in the body, it needs to be inspired by the neshama and not be into itself. You follow? Yeah. The same is also with the physical world and what Korach's mistake was. Korach was saying that tzimtzum is a great thing. Tzimtzum is, you can only say that tzimtzum is a great thing once the tzimtzum becomes transparent. When tzimtzum is brings you to feel distant and alone and dark and cold, then tzimtzum is not a great thing. Tzimtzum causes lots of mistakes to happen. As a friend of mine says, you know what all the mistakes are? All mistakes in the world that happen are all because of the first tzimtzum. It's all this first tzimtzum. It wouldn't be a tzimtzum, we wouldn't be making any mistakes. We could all blame the first tzimtzum for our mistakes. So Korach, he had a point when he was saying. His point was that yes, the divine source of the physical is higher than the spiritual, and the tzimtzum has a higher power to contract the light. That's all true. But what his mistake was that in order to express that, in order to reveal that, the tzimtzum has to miss, the darkness has to miss the light. Just like in our own lives, in order for me to notice divine providence in my life, I have to not be present in what I'm doing, and I have to be totally only interested in what Hashem's plan is. If I'm eating and drinking, doing business because of the sake of Hashem, then I'll see more the godly energy in my life. But if I'm eating and drinking and sleeping because I enjoy it, I'm placing a curtain in front of my eyes and not allowing myself to see beyond my nose.
So is that why we have so many prohibitions or things we're not supposed to do? Do you know what I'm saying?
Yeah, you're asking, is the purpose of prohibitions that Hashem is giving us in order for us to be more in touch with the light of Hashem? Is that what you're saying? Mm-hmm. So it actually says in Tanya that in chapter 32, the Alter Rebbe says that the Torah allows us to place our soul over our body, so that our soul becomes more important to us than our body. That it's a primacy of soul over body. Yeah, I think that's the correct thing to say. Yonatan, something we've been dying to ask. Go ahead, Yonatan, what's your question? Okay.
If you wanted to prove the primacy of the body over the soul, because it sounds like the soul would be higher than the body, the good intentions of the soul mean nothing unless they are formed into action. And without the body, there's no action.
Right.
Actions of anything.
Yeah. But it's true. The body can only fulfill God's intent in creation. Only the body can. The soul can't. Yeah. But only the body listens to the soul. Only the body listens to the soul can the body do that.
Right.
So Korach is saying, ignore the soul. Let's focus on the body. Ignore the light of Hashem. Let's focus on the darkness. Ignore the revelation. Let's focus on the tzimtzum. That's a thing. The tzimtzum is a thing. The tzimtzum expresses Hashem's greatness. But only after there is no more. The tzimtzum has been purified, and it's no longer concealing godliness. And then you're able to look at it from 2,000 feet up, so to speak, and say, "Oh, this expresses Hashem's greatness." But when you're affected by the tzimtzum as being in the dark, tzimtzum doesn't affect Hashem's greatness. In order to transform the tzimtzum, they should see the goodness of Hashem in the tzimtzum. You have to be annoyed by the tzimtzum.
But also the tzimtzum is the separation between heaven and earth.
Yeah. Yeah. That's the rakia.
I asked Moshe places like that.
All right. Stop over here.
Okay?
Okay. Have a great day, Yonatan. Great day, Blake. Great day, Josh.
So we say every morning.